You live?
You're live now.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Morning, everybody. Yes, the weather didn't stop anybody from showing up this morning. Might have canceled school, but that's a whole different ballgame. Anyway, so the first motion is the approval of the agenda and order of business, and there's a variety of correspondence which has been that has been circulated. So we're adding that.
Some of it has been circulated.
No, but as it goes on, just so you have it. And there's possibly on 6.2, we will be deferring a decision on...
There's a motion from the Parks and Recreation Committee on the active living strategy, and so staff will be bringing that back to council with a presentation before we look for approval of the motion.
And that's it for me, Derek.
I just want to ask that we extend the public input session beyond the normal 15 minutes. I think we may need that this morning.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
Not at all.
No.
Okay. Anything else? Somebody want to move the approval as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Public input. I'm going to limit it to a half hour because we have other appointments and things that we have to do. But beyond 15 minutes is not a problem. So, does anybody wish to address council this morning? Yes.
I know this wasn't on the agenda, but I did want to bring your attention to Lordley Park, the sale of Lordley Park. I assume you probably have heard about it.
Yes.
And I don't know that it's your problem, but
Susie, you gotta say your name and address first.
Oh, Susie Fraser, 78 Queen Street, Chester. And I don't know it's your problem, but it's all of our problem. And I've been told that there was a covenant that it actually cannot be changed from a park. It's also a wetland. It is the community green space. It's the only green space we have left in the community. And I feel that the Heritage Society has not consulted with their members, and I think they need to come to the community to help solve this problem. I don't think selling our only green space is the way to solve the problem. So I'm asking MODC to help us, to help the Heritage Society to move forward to save this property.
There's very little I can tell you at the moment, but we have had some discussions with the Heritage Society yesterday, and I'm bringing a proposal to council to address this situation.
Can we get it off the block?
It'll be an in-camera discussion at the end of the day because it's between us and the Heritage Society. It is their issue, but we may have a role in solving it for them.
Thank you.
And that's really, I have to just leave it at that. Yes, name and address.
My name is Bob Bellaho and I live at 75 Water Street, a couple of blocks down. Just following what Susie said, I just was sitting here reading that the Municipality of Chester is a treasure chest. It is. And one of the most brilliant diamonds in it is the Lordley Park that we're talking about. It has to be preserved as a park at all costs. Right now, it's a private park, and I have seen the deed. There are restrictive covenants in it. But there is something council can do. I was looking at the village land use bylaws yesterday, and right now it's designated as institutional. And I read the various uses as institutional. But there is one thing you can do, and I would request that you give serious consideration to it, and that is designating it under 10.1 as park. In other words, change its zoning. And I think it would be an excellent thing to do if this council were to, for instance, pass a motion giving it notice of its intention to change the zoning from institutional to park far and wide, so that anybody who has any ideas will be well aware that it is council's intention to designate it once and for all as a park under 10.1. And that, I think, would go a long way to eliminating some of the threats to the park.
Thank you.
Tristan Mills, 132 Regent Street in Chester. I'm kind of here to speak about the Airbnb matter that we were bringing forward, but I did, before we, I guess maybe let the park speak first, it's a pointed matter. Just on the matter of the park, I guess planning staff is coming in to give an update to the draft plan review that's coming up. I guess could council direct staff to possibly very clearly go into what the current zoning on that park is, with what the rights under institutional land are, and what changes are going to be taking place in the proposed draft that's going to be potentially adopted by council, just to give, I guess, the community maybe a sense of what really is going to be possible on that property now and after that is adopted, to possibly allay some concerns about the threat of development of those lands.
I'm sure they will address that, yeah. Anyone else wish to speak? Yeah.
Frank Metzger, I live in Chester, have for 27 years. I've worked with and been on the board of the Heritage Society off and on over the years and was instrumental in some of its projects. I think, going back to the restrictive covenants that Bob mentioned, it really doesn't matter how it's zoned, because the terms of the agreement that the Heritage Society acquired the land very strictly lays out that it can never be used for anything other than a park. And it clearly says no development, no residential, no industrial. So it really wouldn't matter how it was zoned, because they're not. And by the way, the covenant was on the land, not on the organization. So it wouldn't matter if the property was sold; it still could only be used as a park.
Yeah.
I secondly would say the Heritage Society, in my view, deserves a lot of credit for creating this park. For 25 years, they've nickel and dimed and struggled and worked like buggers to make this thing happen. And I think they deserve support. And the park, of course, is a great asset to the community. So I would hope that the council would use everything in its power to encourage its future success.
We're trying to find a solution that works for the community and the Heritage.
Just by way of clarification, Frank, the covenants don't apply to the whole park.
No, it's.
Covenants don't apply. Remember the old Cornelius house that was up on that corner?
Yes, well, that's not for sale now anyway, so.
That was acquired later.
Listed by who?
The Heritage Society is listed both properties.
But they don't own that.
No, the other corner.
The other corner. The one with the old cat, like the cat.
Oh, yeah, I know. No, but the other corner where the playground is, they do not own that. So that is not what we're talking about.
Understood. I just wanted to clarify for everybody that the covenants do not apply to that old Cornelius property, just what came from the neck nuts. Just so we got it.
Anyway, it's a little bit of a complex issue, but we're trying to come up with a solution that works for everybody. Anyone else wish to speak? Okay.
Can I sit down?
Yes, you can.
You may.
Thank you. Lizzie Moore, 59 Simons Point Road in the Back Harbor. Thank you for your time today. Before the whole Lordley Park came up as an issue, we had seen that the proposal for the land use was on the agenda. Mm-hmm. So that's why a few of us have come today to speak to it. Obviously, Lordley Park is essential to discuss, so I wouldn't want to take any time from that. So thank you, Councillor White, for adding time to the public consultation or public time today. So my name is Lizzie Moore. My family and I have a home on the Back Harbor in Chester. I've been involved in short-term and long-term rentals in Chester for the past 15 years. My husband and I love meeting with families and couples that rent from us. Many are return guests, and some are here for weddings, and they end up coming back again. I've been very active on these proposals to limit short-term rentals to only commercial areas in the village. I met with Garth in the municipality, as well as most recently a group of us met with Councillor Wells and Garth and Chad. Our concern is that many of the current short-term rentals reside outside of the proposed commercial area, and thus would no longer be able to operate for stays under 30 days. Many of these homes have been renting short-term for decades. Every short-term operator has a different story. Whether it is a family home that's been in the family for a century, and they live in the States and come for a few weeks, and then rent the remainder to help cover their costs. Or their long-term plan is to retire here, but in the meantime they can only come for a few weeks, so they need the revenue to help pay for the costs. I could go on, as I found every story is quite different. We would all love visitors to be able to stay for 30 days minimum, but as many of you would understand, many people only have 2 to 3 weeks vacation or or just financially can't afford to stay for a month. Talking with businesses in Chester, some who are present today, their business relies on tourists, those that stay overnight. I know personally we live here and support local as much as we possibly can, but we do not eat out multiple times a week. When on vacation, most do eat out, they shop, they attend the playhouse, they have other events in the village, and they go to the spa. One consideration many of us have been saying is to look at a model that some other small villages and towns are looking at adopting to manage short-term rental. License those that have a short-term rental and make the minimum stay 7 days. This would allow the municipality to know which houses are short-term rentals and a mechanism for not renewing any that pose issues. It would also generate a cash flow to help with any costs associated with this new change. At one point, the municipality indicated that there are 70 short-term rentals in the Chester Village. If you charge, say, $500 license fee per property, that would generate $35,000 revenue a year. Some places do it on a tiered model, so the larger the home, the larger the fee. I was talking to someone who has places in PI, and they indicated that since they've adopted this model of licensing, it seems to be working really well. I speak with 15 years of experience with short-term rentals in Chester. We have always done a minimum 7-day stay and have had the most amazing families and couples over the years. Short-term rentals bring huge economic benefits to the village, ones that our small business owners need to help them succeed. If you look at the yacht club, the junior sail program, I'm not sure this program would survive without having short-term rentals. So many families rely on short-term rentals while their children are sailing. Changing how short-term rental operate in Chester would have a huge impact on so many businesses. I thank you for your time and urge you to consider changes to the proposed limits on short-term rentals. I urge you to look at ways that other villages in Canada have navigated short-term rentals. They have seen the benefits that short-term rentals bring and have found a way to manage them while still promoting economic benefits for their local businesses like restaurants, shops, activities, and spa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak?
I'm just going to follow Lizzie on just on some of the reasons why I think the consideration towards limiting short-term rentals in the village have been considered. I think in our conversation, Garth, the planning department, has discussed the tenets of affordability, of attainability for housing for people as being, one large reason why the consideration of limiting short-term rentals in the village is being discussed in the plan review. I think the other side of it was some other elements were that the lack of community, people being able to rent houses and not disrupting a community that exists or a neighborhood feel. I think that, Chester's, I don't think anybody here would argue that I don't think Chester stands as, especially within the village and further towards the water you get, I don't think there's any argument for limiting short-term rentals on those properties, creating any element of affordability within the community. You're talking, at the very least, anything that's on the water is, you're in $1 million price point or higher. That if we continue to operate this economy that allows people to come and visit Chester, this is how many people have found themselves in this village, is coming and renting houses for short-term or for long-term, becoming members of the community. This is sort of the fabric that's been created by that industry historically over, probably over a century. I think the idea that when we were discussing with the development department that they wanted to see that accommodation rental move more towards the commercially zoned areas of the village and away from the residential areas. I think you're actually now competing with realistic affordability. Like I've just renovated a 4-unit building on Queen Street. I did a 2-unit building on Queen Street a couple of years ago. Those are in that commercial zone. That's where you can do multi-unit by right. If people want to be able to have apartments and have people live and walk inside the village that realistically cannot afford to buy into the, let's say, the price point of what owning an individual property in this village amounts to, that trying to direct the short-term rentals out of properties that are not attainable, that are partially occupied, that are a great economic driver to the community, to push the emphasis of that accommodation into the commercially zoned area of the village is actually going to have a negative impact on affordability and people being able to rent and live in the village. I think you would see development of those spaces go towards hotels or, again, specific short-term rental properties. Whereas now we want to see more apartments built in those areas so people can live in the village in a walkable way. I think it was a misdirection, and I think council should consider that when talking with Garth about the plan review and considering this issue.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak before?
So still Susie Fraser and still at 78 Queen Street. I always seem to have a lot to say. I agree, and if anyone should disagree, it should be me. Because I have one of the few accommodations in Chester. But as Piers Baker said, you know, we've always had short-term rentals in Chester, but now it's digitized. Now people know about it, but we've always had it, and that's what keeps Chester going. This is what we need to support the community. If we don't have short-term rentals, we're going to die because there's no accommodations here in Chester. I think licensing is the way to go. I don't think the zoning is the answer. I think it needs to be licensed. And as we discussed with Councillor Wells at a meeting, it needs to be policed. But I think it's essential to the economy of Chester.
Thank you.
At the meeting, Susan, it was suggested that maybe 2 weeks would work.
I think that's pushing it. I think 1 week is in this day and age and people's busy lives. I think 1 week is the best we can hope for.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak before I shut it down?
Sorry, I do have a list of, sorry, Lizzie Moore, still 59 Simons Road. I do have multiple letters from people who could not be here, so I don't know if I submit those now or...
You can, yeah.
Okay, perfect, great, okay, thank you.
We'll take them all into consideration.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
We didn't need a half an hour.
Okay, public information input is closed. We're on to the minutes of the previous meeting, February 22nd. Council minutes. Errors or omissions? Oh, okay.
That sounds great. Are you sure? Oh, you're here. Thank you so much. Yeah, those are, here's my Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Oh, we might as well take 5 minutes until public. Yeah. Go fill your coffee cup up.